Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Kathy Luker, a CPA and owner of Blue Harbor Consulting. Each week, I go live to share practical strategies that HVAC and service business owners can use to bring clarity and control to their finances so they can grow profitably and avoid costly mistakes. Today, we're tackling a hot topic that I get asked about constantly: 1099 versus W-2 compliance when it comes to your HVAC labor. This might sound like just paperwork, but it can make or break your business. I'm going to explain what the difference really is, how the IRS and Department of Labor look at it, HVAC specific examples that I see in the field, penalties if you get it wrong, and how to set yourself up for success. By the end, you'll know exactly where the line is between employee and contractor and how to keep your business safe. So why should you care? For many owners, the temptation is simple. If I put my guys on 1099, I don't have to pay payroll taxes, unemployment insurance, or workers' comp. My labor is cheaper. But here's the truth. If you misclassify workers, the IRS, Department of Labor, or your state can come after you. And when they do, they just don't give you a slap on the hand and say, fix it going forward. They'll hit you for back payroll taxes, penalties, interest, and sometimes even personal liability. I've seen businesses blindsided with six-figure bills, all because they didn't understand the rules. In HVAC, labor is your biggest cost. Mismanaging it can sink a business. Here's a simplest way to think about it. A W-2 employee is someone you control. You tell them where to go, when to be there, what uniform to wear, and how to do the work. You're on the hook for payroll taxes, insurance, and following labor laws. A 1099 contractor is an independent business. They control how the job gets done, they use their own tools, and they can make a profit or a loss. You cut them a check at the job and they handle their own taxes. So the rule of thumb is if you control the worker, they're an employee. Let's put this into real HVAC terms. Example one is the installer. Joe shows up at your shop every morning. He rides in your truck, uses your tools, wears your uniform, and takes direction from your foreman. You pay him hourly. Joe is a W-2 employee. Example two is a subcontractor. Sarah owns her own licensed HVAC business. She brings her own truck, tools, and crew. You hire her to install a rooftop unit on a commercial job. She invoices you for the project. Sarah is a 1099 contractor. Example three is a summer helper. You bring in a college kid for the summer. You tell them when to report, how to pull the ductwork, and they only work for you. You pay them weekly. And even though it's temporary, that's a W-2 employee. Example four is a specialist. You hire a controls expert who runs his own LLC. He works for multiple contractors, bills by the job, and uses specialized software and tools that you don't provide. He would be a 1099 contractor. Notice the pattern. If they look and act like your team, they're employees. The IRS looks at three main areas. Number one is behavioral control. Do you decide when, where, and how they work? If yes, they're an employee. Number two is financial control. Do you provide the truck, tools, and uniform? Do you pay hourly instead of by the project? If yes, they're an employee. Number three is relationship. Do they only work for you? Do you offer them benefits? Do they look like a team to your customer, like part of your team to the customer? If yes, they're an employee. If the answer leans yes in those areas, they're not contractors, they're employees. So what happens if you get the classification wrong? You could owe years of back payroll taxes plus penalties and interest. If the Department of Labor gets involved, you could be liable for overtime and back pay. If someone gets hurt on the job and you don't have them on workers' comp, your business could be sued. And some states add their own fines on top of the IRS. Here's an example. A company in Texas treated all their installers as 1099 contractors. One tech filed for unemployment. That triggered a state audit, which triggered an IRS audit, and they ended up owing over $200,000. One mistake, and the owner almost lost his business. Here's something many owners don't realize. It's not just the IRS. States have their own rules. Some states follow the stricter ABC test. Now that means to be a contractor, the person must be free from control, perform work outside the usual course of your business, and have an independent trader business. In HVAC, most techs fail B right away. Installing and repairing HVAC is your core business. So in states that use the ABC test, almost all techs must be W-2 employees. This is why you can't just rely on what another owner in a different state is doing, or even in the same state. The stakes are high, so you don't want to follow the example of another company without doing your own research. Let me bust some myths I hear all the time. If they sign a contractor agreement, I'm covered. Wrong. The IRS looks at reality, not paperwork. If they work part-time, I can make them 1099. Wrong. Hours don't matter. If they ask to be 1099, that's fine. Nope. Workers don't get a choice. If I've paid them as 1099 for years, that's okay. No, audits can go back several years. Everyone in the trades does it. That doesn't matter, and it doesn't protect you when the IRS shows up at your door. So what should you do? Classify correctly. If you control their work, they're W-2. Use 1099 sparingly, only for true subcontractors with their own business and insurance. Keep records, save contracts, invoices, and proof that subcontractors carry their own liability and workers' comp. Do annual reviews. Look at your roster each year and reevaluate. Educate your office staff. Make sure whoever handles payroll knows the rules. So here's your to-do list after today's session. Pull a list of everyone you paid on 1099 last year. Ask yourself, do they truly run their own business, or are they functioning like employees? If they're really employees, start the process of moving them to W-2. Talk with your payroll provider or CPA about how to handle the transition. Decide how you want to handle the retroactive risk. Do you want to apply for a voluntary classification settlement program with the IRS, or fix going forward and ignore the past? Put a process in place before you pay anyone as a 1099, verify they meet the test. One more piece of information. Getting this right helps your long-term finances too. If you ever want to sell your HVAC company, buyers look closely at your labor practices. Misclassification can kill a deal. If you want to qualify for bonding or bank loans, lenders look at payroll compliance. If you want to attract top talent, offering legitimate employment with benefits and stability gives you an edge. So this isn't just about compliance, it's also a growth strategy. The tougher piece of this is, what about the past? Do you need to go back and fix it? You have two options. You can apply for a voluntary classification settlement program, a VCSP. The IRS has a program that allows employers to reclassify workers going forward with reduced penalties. Instead of paying years of back taxes and penalties, you pay about 10% of the employment tax liability for the past year only, with no interest or penalties. You get protection from a full IRS employment tax audit for those specific workers for prior years. Quiet correction approach. Some businesses simply correct going forward and hope they don't get audited on past years. This avoids writing a check today, but carries the risk that if an audit comes later, the IRS or state can assess back taxes and penalties for multiple years. Worker complaints means a higher risk. If an employee files for unemployment, workers' comp, or reports you to the IRS or state, your retroactive exposure goes up dramatically. In those cases, it's safer to go through a formal correction process like the VCSP. Here's some steps to reduce your risk. Review with your CPA or payroll advisor before deciding whether to apply for VCSP or moving forward. Document your decision making. Keep notes that you identified the issue, consulted an advisor, and corrected it immediately. This helps show good faith. Check your state level rules. Some states have their own settlement or amnesty programs separate from the IRS. Communicate with workers. Explain the change clearly. Going forward, you'll be treated as an employee. That means payroll taxes will be held. You'll be covered under our workman's comp, and you may be eligible for benefits. But be prepared for pushback. Some workers like B1099 because they think it means a bigger paycheck. Frame it as a compliance and protection issue that benefits both them and your business. Always transition immediately going forward. And to reduce your retroactive risk, the IRS VCSP program is usually the safest path. Whether you use it or not depends on your risk tolerance and whether you've already drawn attention from an agency or worker complaint. So let's recap. 1099 versus W-2 is all about control, behavioral, financial, and relationship. Most HVAC techs, installers, and helpers are employees, not contractors. Misclassification can bring steep penalties. Each state may have additional tests you must meet. Protect your business by classifying correctly, documenting properly, and reviewing annually. If you're unsure about your current setup, don't wait until an audit forces the issue. I help HVAC owners not only stay compliant, but also improve profitability, job costing, and cash flow. You can book a free consultation with me using the link in the comments. Let's make sure your labor is set up right so you can focus on running a profitable, growing HVAC business. Thanks for joining me today. Next week's topic is how HVAC owners can offer financing without losing profit. Same time, same place. See you then.